In a world where love transcends race and challenge, witness the extraordinary journey of a boy who rises from the ashes of adversity to find his true identity through music and family. A white woman adopted a black boy and provided him with a loving and caring environment. Many years later, the boy came across an old photograph from his childhood in the heart of Burundi, a small East African nation. Life pulsed to the rhythm of drums and children's laughter, yet beneath the apparent calm, the scars of civil war and ethnic conflicts had not fully healed. In this context, in a humble home on the outskirts of Bujumbura, the capital, a child was born destined to face extraordinary challenges. From the moment he opened his eyes, the infant captivated his parents Santino and Lupita with his deep gaze and angelic smile. However, something about his appearance caught attention. His skin was speckled with white patches, contrasting with the dark tone he inherited from his parents. Doctors diagnosed the boy with vitiligo, a condition that depigments the skin in certain areas. In a society where superstition and prejudice still prevailed, the boy's appearance soon became the subject of whispers and disdainful looks. Neighbors called him the devil's child, believing his condition was a divine punishment or a sign of evil. Santino, a man of great compassion, embraced his wife as they watched their son play innocently in his crib. Lupita, our child, is a gift from heaven, no matter what others say, he affirmed with conviction. Lupita nodded, wiping away a furtive tear. We will protect him from the cruelty of the world, my love. He will grow up surrounded by love and acceptance. The child's early years were spent in a cocoon of love and protection with his parents, serving as a shield against external intolerance. Santino and Lupita ensured their son felt valued and special, celebrating each of his achievements and consoling him in moments of sadness. However, the shadow of civil war soon loomed over Burundi, bringing death and destruction. Santino, in an act of bravery, decided to join the peace forces to protect his family and community. Before departing, he hugged his son tightly and whispered in his ear, "My child, you are stronger than you think. Your heart is your greatest treasure. Never let anyone make you feel less for being different." With tears in her eyes, Lupita watched her husband leave, clinging to the hope that he would return safe and sound. But fate had other plans. Weeks later, they received the devastating news. Santino had died in an armed confrontation, defending the ideals of peace and justice. He believed in the boy's world crumbled with the loss of his father. Lupita, engulfed in deep pain, struggled to stay strong for her son. However, the stress and grief weakened her health, and she soon fell gravely ill. On her deathbed, Lupita caressed her son's face and said with a trembling voice, "My sweet boy, never forget how much your father and I loved you. Your difference makes you special, not less valuable. Promise me you will be brave and fight for your dreams, no matter the obstacles you encounter." With a broken heart, but with determination born from his parents' love, the child nodded between sobs, "I promise, Mom, I will be brave like Dad, and I will never forget how much you loved me." Thus, at the tender age of 5, the boy found himself alone in a world that seemed not to understand him. After his parents' death, the child was taken in by his uncle Alonso, the only living relative he had left. Alonso, a bitter and resentful man, saw his nephew as a burden imposed by circumstances. Far from offering comfort and affection to the orphaned child, Alonso took out his frustration and anger on him. Alonso's house, located in an impoverished neighborhood of Bujumbura, became a gloomy and oppressive place for the young boy. The peeling walls and dilapidated furniture reflected the emotional decay that reigned in the home. The child, accustomed to the love and warmth of his parents, found himself in a hostile and unfamiliar environment. Alonso, with his penetrating gaze and harsh voice, addressed him with disdain. "Look what we have here, the cursed child." He spat the words with contempt. "Your parents left you as a burden to me, as if I didn't have enough problems." The boy, with tears in his eyes, tried to explain, "Uncle, I didn't ask for this. I just want you to love me like my parents did." But Alonso, blinded by his own misery, couldn't see beyond his resentment. "Love you? Why should I love a child marked by the devil? Your appearance is a curse, and you will only bring misfortune to this house." Alonso's cruel words pierced the boy's heart like sharp daggers. The child sought refuge in the dark corners of the house, finding solace in his own thoughts and memories of his parents. It was in these moments of solitude that he discovered an extraordinary gift. Music. Any word he heard, even the most hurtful ones, transformed into melodies in his mind. It was as if his brain was connected to an invisible symphony that only he could perceive. Music became his escape, his secret refuge, where he could forget the pain and sadness. He softly hummed the melodies that formed in his head, creating an internal world where beauty and harmony reigned over cruelty and rejection. However, the boy's presence in Alonso's house became increasingly unbearable for the bitter man. The sight of the child with vitiligo constantly reminded him of his own miseries and failures, and the music the boy created in silence only fueled his resentment. One day Alonso reached his limit with a cold and determined look. He grabbed the boy by the arm and dragged him out of the house. I can't stand your presence here anymore. He growled, you are a curse and a burden. It's time for you to go. The boy with a broken heart pleaded, please, uncle, don't throw me out. I have nowhere to go. I promise to be good and not cause you any trouble. But Alonso, with a cruel smile, responded, I don't care where you go, just get out of my sight. A child like you doesn't deserve a home. With those ruthless words, Alonso pushed the boy onto the streets of Bujumbura, condemning him to an uncertain fate. The child, with tears streaming down his cheeks, clung to the music in his mind. As his only solace, he knew he would have to be strong and brave, just as his parents had taught him to survive in a world that seemed to have no place for him. As he wandered aimlessly through the dusty streets, the boy promised himself that he would not let his uncle's cruelty define his life. He would find a way to move forward, to make his parents proud, and to prove that his difference was not a curse, but a strength that would drive him to achieve great things. Abandoned to his fate on the streets of Bujumbura, the boy wandered aimlessly, seeking refuge and comfort. The scorching African sun punished his mottled skin, while hunger and thirst took over his small body. In the midst of his despair, destiny guided him to the doors of a ruined orphanage, a place that would become his new home and his greatest challenge. The orphanage, a decrepit building with peeling walls and broken windows, housed dozens of children who, like him, had been struck by tragedy and abandonment. However, far from being a welcoming refuge, the place was ruled by the cruelty and negligence of the caregivers, who saw the orphans as an unwanted burden. When the boy crossed the threshold of the orphanage, he was met with looks of disdain and malicious whispers. The other children, influenced by society's superstitions and prejudices, pointed at him and mocked his appearance. Look, it's the devil's child, they whispered between cruel laughs. His skin is cursed. Don't go near him or you'll catch his curse. The boy, with a heavy heart, tried to ignore the taunts and insults. He took refuge in a corner of the courtyard, hugging his knees and closing his eyes, trying to escape the reality surrounding him. In those moments, the music in his mind became more intense, more vivid, like a balm for his wounded soul. The days in the orphanage were a constant struggle for survival. The food was scarce and of poor quality, and the caregivers showed no compassion for the children's needs. The boy, with his resilient spirit, learned to fend for himself, finding solace in the darkest corners and taking advantage of every opportunity to feed and protect himself. Despite the adversities, he did not lose hope. Every night, before sleeping on the hard floor of his shared room, he closed his eyes and evoked the loving faces of his parents. Mom, Dad, I know you are with me in spirit, he whispered in the darkness. You gave me the strength to face any challenge. I will not let you down. Music became his escape, his way of transcending the walls of the orphanage and the disdainful looks of others. He hummed soft melodies while performing the most arduous tasks, finding comfort in the notes that floated in his mind. It was his secret, his most precious treasure, and he knew that someday that music would take him to a better place. One day, while the boy was lost in his thoughts, a new boy arrived at the orphanage. His name was Diego, a boy with a defiant look and an indomitable spirit. Unlike the others, Diego was not influenced by gossip and prejudice. He saw a gentle soul in the new arrival and approached him with a warm smile. Hi, I'm Diego. He introduced himself firmly. Don't pay attention to what the others say. I see a brave and special boy in you. Surprised by Diego's kindness, the boy gave a shy smile. Thank you, Diego. I'm glad to have a friend here. In the midst of the darkness and despair that enveloped the orphanage, Diego's arrival was like a ray of light in the young boy's life. That boy, with a defiant look and an indomitable spirit, quickly became his confidant, his ally, and his best friend. Together, they found the strength to face daily challenges and dream of a better future. Diego, with his rebellious character and sense of justice, quickly earned the respect of the other children at the orphanage. His imposing presence and determination to defend the weaker ones made him a natural leader. When the abusive caregivers tried to mistreat his friend or other children, Diego bravely stepped in, willing to take the blows and punishments in their place. I won't let them hurt you, Diego said firmly, wiping the tears from his friend's face. You are my brother, and brothers protect each other. Moved by Diego's loyalty, the young boy felt his heart filled with gratitude and affection. For the first time since his parents' death, he experienced the warmth of true friendship, an unbreakable bond that gave him the strength to move forward. Together, they became an inseparable team. During the day, they worked side by side on the orphanage's chores, sharing laughs and confidences while washing dishes or sweeping the dusty floors. In moments of rest, they sneaked into the farthest corners of the courtyard, where the young boy shared his passion for music with his friend. Listen to this, Diego. he said enthusiastically, humming a melody that had been swirling in his head. It's a song I composed for you for our friendship. Diego, amazed by his friend's talent, encouraged him to keep creating and to never give up on his dreams. Someday the whole world will hear your music. You will be a great artist. But life in the orphanage was not easy, and moments of happiness were fleeting. The caregivers, frustrated and resentful of their own lives, took out their anger on the defenseless children. The young boy, with his unique appearance, remained the main target of bullying and abuse. One day, while he was sweeping the courtyard, a group of older boys approached him with malicious looks. Look at the devil's child, they mocked, pushing him to the ground. Why don't you get out of here? No one wants you, freak. The boy, with tears in his eyes, tried to defend himself, but the boys were stronger. Just when he thought all was lost, Diego appeared like a whirlwind, throwing himself at the aggressors with uncontrollable fury. Leave him alone, cowards, Diego shouted, delivering blows and kicks left and right. If you touch my friend again, you'll have to deal with me. The boys, surprised by Diego's ferocity, fled in terror, leaving his friend trembling on the ground. Diego knelt beside his friend and hugged him tightly, conveying all his support and affection. From that moment on, their friendship became even more solid and unbreakable. They became each other's strength, the unconditional support that allowed them to survive in that hostile place amid the chaos and cruelty that reigned in the orphanage. The young boy also found an unexpected ray of hope in the figure of Miss Isabel. Middle-aged woman with warm eyes and a kind smile, Isabel was one of the few people in that place who treated the children with compassion and respect, seeing in them the potential that others refused to recognize. Miss Isabel was especially moved by the boy's story and his passion for music. She herself had dreamed of being an artist in her youth, but life circumstances had taken her down different paths. In him, she saw a reflection of her own lost dreams and set out to do everything possible to help him develop his talent. One day, during one of the improvised classes that Isabel taught the children, she approached the boy with a knowing smile. I've noticed that you have a special gift for music, she said quietly, so as not to attract the attention of the others. I would like to help you cultivate that talent, if you allow me. Surprised and excited by the teacher's attention, the boy nodded enthusiastically. I would love that, Miss Isabel. Music is everything to me. It's what keeps me alive in this place. From that moment on, Isabel became the boy's mentor and confidant. In their free time, she taught him the basics of music theory and helped him transcribe the melodies that formed in his mind. He absorbed each lesson eagerly, feeling that he had finally found a purpose amid so much adversity. But the relationship between the boy and Isabel did not go unnoticed by the other caregivers at the orphanage. Some viewed with suspicion the special attention the teacher gave the boy, while others simply disapproved of any show of affection toward the orphans. Rumors and gossip began to circulate, poisoning the already tense atmosphere of the place. One day, while the boy and Isabel were working on a new song, one of the caregivers burst into the room, his face red with anger. What do you think you're doing, Isabel? He snapped, pointing at the boy with disdain. Wasting time with this freak instead of fulfilling your duties. That's enough. This has to stop. But Isabel was not intimidated by the threats. In an act of courage and generosity, she handed the boy an old magazine she had found at the local market. Look, she said, pointing to the cover, this is a famous singer, and he's holding a guitar like the one you dream of playing. Someday, I want you to keep this magazine so you never forget your dreams and know that there's a world beyond these walls. The boy hugged the magazine to his chest, feeling that this simple gesture gave him the strength to keep going. But in the orphanage, hope and happiness were fleeting states. With the magazine Miss Isabel had given him as his most precious possession, the boy spent hours staring at the image of the singer with his guitar, imagining himself in that place. That photograph became a symbol of his dreams and aspirations, a constant reminder that there was a world beyond the orphanage walls where his music could shine. One day, while the boy and Diego were sitting in the orphanage courtyard sharing a meager lunch, he decided to confide his biggest secret. Diego, do you know what I want to be when I grow up? He asked. Special sparkle in his eyes, Diego, intrigued, set aside his plate and looked at his friend with curiosity. No, what do you want to be? I want to be a singer, like the one in the magazine Miss Isabel gave me, the boy revealed, pulling the treasured publication from his clothes. I want to travel the world and share my music with people, make them feel what I feel when I sing. Diego examined the image of the singer, and a smile spread across his face. You know what? I think you can do it. You have incredible talent. The boy felt his heart swell with emotion at his friend's encouraging words. Do you really think so, Diego? Sometimes it feels like an impossible dream, especially being stuck in this place. Nothing is impossible if you fight for it, Diego affirmed with conviction. But not everything was rosy in the orphanage. When the other children found out about the boy's dream, they mercilessly mocked him. A famous singer? You don't make me laugh. They jeered. No one would want to listen to a freak like you. The boy tried to ignore the taunts, but each word stabbed his heart like a thorn. Life at the orphanage continued with its ups and downs, and daily challenges. The two boys clung to their friendship like a lifeline, in the midst of the storm finding comfort and strength in each other's presence. However, fate had an unexpected twist in store that would test their unbreakable bond one day. An unusual commotion took over the orphanage. A Canadian couple, the Johnsons, had arrived with the intention of adopting a child. The caregivers, eager to impress the visitors, hurried to tidy up the orphans and put on their best faces. The boy and Diego watched the hustle from a corner, not getting their hopes up. They knew their chances of being chosen were slim, especially for the boy with his unique appearance. The Johnsons toured the facilities, evaluating each child with a critical eye. When they reached Diego, something in his determined look and brave demeanor caught their attention. After a brief conversation, they made their decision. They wanted to adopt Diego. The news fell like a bucket of cold water on his friend. His best friend, his soul brother, would be taken away from his side. Diego, for his part, was torn between the excitement of having a family and the pain of leaving his friend behind. "I can't leave him," Diego said with tears in his eyes. "I can't leave you alone in this place. You're my best friend, my brother." Heartbroken but aware of the opportunity presented to Diego, the young boy took his hands and looked him in the eyes. "You have to go, Diego. This is your chance to have a family, to live a better life. You can't let it pass because of me. But what will happen to you? Who will protect you when I'm not here?" Diego asked, his voice breaking. "I'll be fine," his friend lied, forcing a smile. "I have Miss Isabel and my music. Besides, this isn't goodbye forever. I know we'll meet again someday, when we've both fulfilled our dreams." With a heavy heart, Diego accepted the decision. The Johnsons took him away that same afternoon, not without promising his friend they would take good care of Diego and do everything possible to keep in touch. The boy watched Diego leave with a mix of sadness and envy. On one hand, he was happy for his friend, knowing he would have the chance at a better life, but on the other, he couldn't help but feel a deep loneliness at losing his closest companion that night. While everyone celebrated Diego's adoption, the boy sneaked off to his favorite corner of the orphanage, a small dark room where he could be alone with his thoughts. There, he let the tears he had held back all day flow, allowing himself to feel the pain of separation. Diego's departure left a deep void in the boy's life. His friend had been his rock, his constant support in the face of adversity, and now he found himself alone, facing the challenges of the orphanage without his battle companion. But the boy was determined to move forward, clinging to the promise he had made to Diego and the hope of a better future. However, life at the orphanage was about to take a tragic turn. One day, while the children were going about their daily chores, a group of armed rebels stormed the premises. The caregivers, terrified, tried to protect the orphans, but the invaders' violence knew no bounds. In the midst of the chaos, Miss Isabel bravely stood between the rebels and the children, becoming a human shield to protect them. "Run, children, find a safe place," she shouted, her voice filled with desperation. The boy, paralyzed by fear, watched as the rebels aimed their weapons at Miss Isabel. In an instant, the sound of gunfire echoed through the air, and the teacher fell to the ground, her lifeless body collapsing before the horrified eyes of the children. "No, Miss Isabel," he cried, tears streaming down his cheeks as he tried to run to her, but other children grabbed him, dragging him to an improvised hiding place. As the rebels continued their attack for endless hours, the young boy and the other orphans huddled in their refuge, trembling with fear and crying silently. The sounds of gunfire and screams mixed with the frantic beating of their hearts, until finally silence returned to the orphanage. When they emerged from their hiding place, the horror of the scene hit them hard. Miss Isabel's lifeless body lay in a pool of blood, her face frozen in an expression of determination and sacrifice. Around her, other caregivers and children had met the same fate, innocent victims of senseless violence. The boy approached Miss Isabel's body, falling to his knees beside her teacher. Why did this have to happen?" he sobbed, clutching her cold, lifeless hand. "You were all I had, my only hope in this place. What am I going to do now without you?" The tragedy left an indelible mark on the boy's soul. The loss of Miss Isabel, his mentor and confidant, added to the pain of Diego's absence. In the days that followed, the boy fell into a state of shock and despair. Music, which had once been his escape and solace, now felt bland and meaningless. What was the point of dreaming of a better future when reality was so cruel? But amid his pain, he remembered Miss Isabel's words, her unwavering faith in him and his talent. "You can't give up," she seemed to whisper in his ear. "Don't let the darkness extinguish your light." Thousands of miles away in the United States, Elaine Clark was immersed in her own personal challenges. Since her college days, Elaine had been a passionate activist, fighting for the rights of the underprivileged and dreaming of making the world a fairer place. It was during those years of struggle and commitment that she met Antonio, a charismatic young man who shared her ideals. Antonio had been adopted by an American couple when he was just 5 years old after losing his parents in the ethnic conflicts that ravaged his native African country. Despite growing up in a privileged environment, he never forgot his roots or the reality of so many children who, like him, had been left orphaned and destitute. Elaine and Antonio fell madly in love, and after graduating decided to unite their lives in marriage. They both dreamed of forming a large and loving family where they could instill the values of compassion, justice, and solidarity. However, destiny had a harsh test in store for them after several unsuccessful attempts to conceive a child. Elaine and Antonio decided to undergo medical tests. The results were devastating. Elaine was infertile. The news fell like a hammer blow on the young couple who saw their dream of becoming parents vanish before their eyes. What are we going to do now, Antonio? Elaine asked, her voice breaking with emotion and frustration. We always dreamed of having a large family, of giving our children all the love we received. How are we going to overcome this? Antonio, with the wisdom and serenity that characterized him, took his wife's hands and looked into her eyes. Elaine, the love we have to give does not depend on our ability to conceive biological children. There are so many children in the world who need a family, who yearn for the love and protection we can offer them. It was then that Antonio had an idea that would change their lives forever. What if we adopt a child from my native country? We could give a home to a little one who has lost his parents like I did. It would be a way to honor my roots and make a difference. The life of someone who truly needs it. Elaine, moved by her husband's proposal, felt a new purpose rise in her heart. You're right, Antonio. Adoption is an act of love and generosity. If we can't have biological children, we'll open our home and our hearts to a child who longs for a family. So Elaine and Antonio embarked on the most important journey of their lives. They decided to travel to Burundi, Antonio's birthplace, with the hope of finding the child destiny had reserved for them. When they arrived at the orphanage where the boy was, something in his sad and deep gaze touched their souls. Despite his unique appearance, with the marks of vitiligo on his skin, Elaine and Antonio saw in him a special being full of potential and in need of love. It's him, Antonio, Elaine whispered, tears in her eyes. He's our son. I can feel it in my heart. Antonio, emotional and moved, nodded silently. Thus, with the adoption process underway and their hearts filled with hope, Elaine and Antonio prepared to embark on the greatest adventure of their lives, becoming the loving and understanding parents the young boy had always dreamed of. Having the journey to the United States was a whirlwind of emotions for the young boy. On one hand, he felt the excitement of starting a new life far from the pain and tragedy that had marked his childhood in Burundi. But on the other, he couldn't help but feel a deep sadness at leaving behind everything he knew, including the memories of his parents and Mrs. Abel. With his few belongings packed in a small suitcase, he clung to the most precious treasures of his past: the photograph of his biological parents smiling and full of love, and the magazine Mrs. Abel had given him with the image of the singer, and his guitar on the cover. These items were the only tangible links he had left to those he had loved and lost. Upon arriving at his new home in the United States, the boy was overwhelmed by the contrast between the opulence of his surroundings and the poverty he had known at the orphanage. Elaine and Antonio's house was spacious and welcoming, with bright rooms and comfortable furniture. For the first time in his life, the boy had a soft bed to sleep in and toys to play with. However, the adaptation was not easy. Accustomed to the harshness of life at the orphanage, he felt out of place in this world of comfort and abundance. Sometimes, he found himself hoarding food in his room, fearing it might run out at some point. Other times, he was startled by sudden noises or raised voices, recalling the horrors he had witnessed during the rebel attack. Elaine and Antonio, aware of the trauma their new son had experienced, made every effort to provide him with all the love and understanding he needed. With patience and affection, they taught him to trust again, to feel safe and loved in his new family. We know all this is new to you, Elaine said gently as she helped him unpack his belongings. But I want you to know that you are safe here, Antonio, and I love you unconditionally, and we will do everything in our power to make you happy. The boy, with tears in his eyes, threw himself into Elaine's arms, clinging to her like a lifeline. In the midst of the storm, "Thank you, Mom," he whispered, surprising himself by using a word that had been buried in his past. "I love you and Dad." Antonio, too. Antonio, moved by hearing the child call him Dad, joined the hug, forming a circle of love and protection around the little boy. "We're here for you, son. We will always be your family, no matter what." Gradually, the boy began to adapt to his new life. He learned to enjoy the little things like walks in the park or family movie nights. He discovered the pleasure of reading and exploring, filling his mind with knowledge and his heart with dreams as the boy adapted to his new life. The United States, his passion for music became increasingly evident. Elaine, always attentive to the needs and desires of her adopted son, quickly noticed the spark in his eyes whenever he listened to a song or hummed a melody one day. While Elaine was preparing dinner in the kitchen, she heard a soft and melodious voice coming from the boys' room. Intrigued, she approached quietly and peeked through the partially open door. What she saw took her breath away. Her son was sitting on the edge of his bed, with Miss Isabel's magazine open on his lap. His fingers moved over an imaginary guitar as he sang a song Elaine had never heard before. The boy's voice was clear and emotional, filled with a passion and feeling that seemed impossible for someone his age. When the song ended, Elaine entered the room softly. "That was beautiful," she said with a smile. "I had no idea you had such a special talent for music." The boy, surprised at first, lowered his gaze shyly. "Thank you, Mom. Music is everything to me. It's what kept me alive at the orphanage, what gave me hope when I thought there was none." Elaine sat down next to him and put an arm around his shoulders. "Tell me more, son. What would it mean to you to be able to develop your musical talent?" His eyes filled with tears as he spoke. "It would mean everything, Mom. For as long as I can remember, I've dreamed of being a singer, of sharing my music with the world. I know it might sound silly, but I feel like it's my destiny, my way of honoring my parents and Miss Isabel." Elaine, moved by her son's passion and determination, made a decision right then and there. "I promise you that I will do everything in my power to help you achieve your dream. If music is your passion, then I will support you every step of the way." And so, with Elaine's unconditional love and support, the boy began his journey into the world of music. Elaine enrolled him in singing and guitar lessons, where the child's natural talent blossomed like a flower in spring. The teachers were amazed by his innate ability for music. His voice, rich and expressive, seemed capable of conveying emotions beyond words. His fingers, agile and precise, tamed the guitar strings as if they were born to do so. As he progressed in his studies, his confidence grew. He was no longer the shy and reserved child who had arrived in the United States, but a budding young artist determined to leave his mark on the world. His talent did not go unnoticed in the music industry. Soon producers and agents began knocking on the Clark family's door, eager to work with the young prodigy. But Elaine, determined to protect her son, ensured that he would not be overwhelmed by the pressures of show business. "Remember, son, music is your passion, your way of expressing yourself. Never let anyone take that away from you. And remember, no matter what happens, your family will always be here to support you." The years passed, and the young boy delved fully into the world of music. At the tender age of 12, he had already mastered several instruments, and his voice had become an instrument in itself, capable of conveying deep emotions and moving anyone who listened. But it was his ability to compose songs that truly distinguished him as a prodigy. He had an innate gift for creating catchy melodies and touching lyrics that seemed to spring from the depths of his soul. His songs spoke of love, loss, hope, and the strength of the human spirit, all from the unique perspective of a child who had lived through more than many adults could imagine. Soon, the most famous artists in the United States began seeking him to write songs for them. Singers and bands of all genres, from pop to rock, were eager to have a composition the young prodigy on their albums. He found himself spending long hours in recording studios, working side by side with renowned producers and musicians. His tireless work ethic and boundless creativity earned him the respect and admiration of the music industry. "It's incredible," remarked a producer after a particularly intense recording session. "He is only 12 years old, but he composes as if he had lived 1,000 lives. His songs have a depth and maturity rarely seen in adult songwriters." Despite his growing success, the boy remained humble and focused on his passion for music. For him, composing was not about fame or fortune, but about expressing the deepest emotions of his heart and connecting with others through his art. "When I write a song," he confessed to Elaine one night, "I feel like I'm honoring all the people who have been important in my life. My parents, Miss Isabel, Diego. It's like I can keep them alive through my music." Elaine, always proud of her son, gave him a warm hug, "And I'm sure they're smiling from heaven. Your songs are a gift to the world, a way to share your light with others." But as his fame grew, so did the pressures of the industry. Agents and record executives began pressuring the young composer to produce more and more hits, often at the expense of his emotional well-being. There were times when he felt overwhelmed, as if the music he loved so much had become a burden. In those moments of doubt, he turned to his family for support and guidance. "Remember, son," Antonio told him one afternoon, after a particularly difficult argument with a record executive, "music is your passion, your way of expressing yourself. Don't let anyone take that away from you. You are an artist, not a hit-making machine." And so, at the tender age of 12, he had become one of the most respected and sought-after songwriters in the United States. His music touched the hearts of millions, bringing a message of hope and resilience to every corner of the country. The years passed, and the boy became a 17-year-old young man with a musical talent that had matured and blossomed like a strong, majestic oak. his tireless dedication and passion for music had led him to this crucial moment. His debut at a major concert, the first step on his path to achieving his dreams, the theater was filled to the last seat, with an expectant and excited audience among the crowd. Were Elaine and Antonio, his adoptive parents who watched him with pride and unconditional love, also present? Were record executives, music critics, and other artists all eager to witness the birth of a new star? But there was someone else in the audience, someone he did not expect to see in one of the back rows, a young man. His age watched him with a knowing smile. It was Diego, his soul brother, who had traveled from Canada to witness this monumental moment. When the young artist stepped onto the stage, the theater fell into an expectant silence. Under the dazzling lights, his skin, modeled by vitiligo, seemed to glow with a light of its own, as if the stars had settled on him. With his guitar in hand and his voice ready to rise, he closed his eyes for a moment, evoking the faces of those who had inspired him. His parents, Miss Isabel, and of course Diego, and then he began to sing. His voice, powerful and full of emotion, filled every corner of the theater. The songs he had composed, born from his heart and polished by years of dedication, came to life, enveloping the audience in a whirlwind of feelings. They spoke of love and loss, hope and resilience, and the beauty that can arise from the ashes of tragedy. The audience, captivated by his magnetic presence and undeniable talent, surrendered completely to the magic of his music. They applauded, cheered, and cried. Deeply moved in that moment, the young man knew he had found his place in the world, that his destiny was intertwined with music in an unbreakable way. When the concert ended, the ovation was deafening. With tears in his eyes and a radiant smile, he thanked his audience with a bow. He had given his all on stage, and the audience's response was confirmation that his dream, the one he had shared with Diego years ago, was finally within reach. Backstage, the record executives rushed to congratulate him. That was incredible. One of them said, shaking his hand enthusiastically, "We want to offer you a record deal here and now. You have a bright future ahead of you." But before he could respond, he heard a familiar voice calling out to him, "Brother." It was Diego, pushing through the crowd to hug his friend. "I always knew you would make it. I'm so proud of you." The two friends, united by an unbreakable bond, embraced emotionally. The young artist, with a voice choked with emotion, whispered, "This is thanks to you, Diego. I would never have gotten here without your friendship, without your support. This victory is as much yours as it is mine." After the presentation, Diego shared that he found the announcement of his friend's performance on social media and traveled from Canada to the United States to reunite with him. From that day on, the friends promised to always stay in touch. The young artist's career was taking off, and the dream he had shared with Diego years ago was becoming a reality. But beyond fame and success, he knew that his true purpose was to use his music to touch hearts, inspire hope, and honor those who had guided him on his journey. At 24, his success in the music world opened doors he had never imagined. His voice and songs reached millions of people, touching their hearts and transforming their lives. But amid all the whirlwind of fame, he never forgot those who had been his rock and unconditional support. His adoptive parents, Elaine and Antonio. One day, while resting in his luxurious apartment after an exhausting tour, he made a decision. He wanted to show Elaine and Antonio how much they meant to him, how much he appreciated everything they had done for him. Since the moment they welcomed him into their home and hearts with an excited smile, he called his parents, "Mom, Dad, pack your bags. We're going on a trip to see the world together. I want to share with you everything I've achieved thanks to your love and support." Elaine, with tears of joy in her eyes, hugged her son through the phone. "You don't have to do this. You know we love you and are proud of you no matter what." But he insisted, "Please let me do this for you. I want you to see the world through my eyes, to experience the joy and excitement of discovering new places together." And so the family embarked on an extraordinary journey. They traveled to exotic countries, staying in the most luxurious hotels and living unforgettable experiences. He showed them the places he had visited during his tour, sharing with them the stories and people he had encountered along the way. But the greatest gift came when they returned to the United States. With a mischievous smile, he took his parents to a luxury car dealership. "Mom, Dad, I want you to choose the car of your dreams. It's my way of thanking you for everything you've done for me." Antonio Whittier was speechless. "This is too much. We can't accept such a gift." But the young man, with a look full of love, insisted, "Please, let me do this for you. You gave me a home, a family, and unconditional love when I needed it most. This is just a small token of my gratitude." With tears in their eyes and hearts bursting with pride, Elaine and Antonio accepted their son's gift. They knew that beyond the luxury cars and exotic trips, the true treasure was the love they shared as a family. But life had another surprise in store for him. One night, after an electrifying concert, he Decided to relax at a nearby bar. There among the crowd, his eyes fell on a beautiful and enigmatic woman. Her name was Carla. And from the moment their eyes met, he knew he had found someone special. He approached her with his heart pounding. Hi, I'm a musician. Can I buy you a drink? Carla, with a captivating smile, accepted. And so began a conversation that extended into the early hours of the morning, an instant connection that seemed destined to be. They started seeing each other more often, stealing moments between his commitments and Carla's busy life as a lawyer. Each encounter was a spark of magic, a promise of something bigger and deeper. I've never met anyone like you, Carla whispered one night, nestled in his arms. You're more than a famous artist. You're a beautiful and brave soul who has overcome so much. His heart swelling with love, he kissed her gently. And you, Carla, are the missing piece in my life. Preparations for his and Carla's wedding were in full swing. The couple radiated happiness and love, and their joy was contagious to everyone around them. In the midst of the whirlwind of emotions, he decided to take some time to organize his belongings before moving into the new home he would share with Carla. As he sifted through old boxes and photo albums, he came across an image that took his breath away. It was a photograph of his biological parents smiling and embraced with a baby in their arms who could only be himself. With trembling hands, he took the photo and examined it closely, absorbing every detail of the faces he barely remembered. At that moment, Antonio entered the room, curious to know what had captured his son's attention. Seeing the photo in his hands, Antonio's face turned pale, and his eyes filled with tears. Dad, what's wrong? He asked, concerned by Antonio's reaction. Do you know these people? Antonio, with a voice choked with emotion, sat down next to him. Son, there's something your mother and I have wanted to tell you for a long time, but we never found the right moment. His heart pounding, he listened intently as Antonio revealed a secret that would change his life forever. The woman in that photo, your biological mother, she was my sister, which means you are my legitimate nephew. The revelation hit the young man like a bolt of lightning. For years, he had longed to know more about his roots, about the family he had lost. And now he discovered that they had always been closer than he had imagined. Why didn't you tell me? Before he asked, with a mixture of amazement and confusion in his voice, you see, I came to the United States when I was only 5 years old and didn't remember my biological family. Before adopting you, I wanted to know more about my origins and hired a private detective. This man discovered that my parents had died and that I had a sister who had also died, but her son was alive and living in an orphanage. Antonio, with tears rolling down his cheeks, continued, when we adopted you, we didn't want you to feel different or to think that our love for you was conditional on blood ties. We wanted to give you a home filled with love and acceptance, no matter where you came from. Deeply moved, the young man hugged Antonio tightly. Dad, you gave me something much more valuable than blood ties. You gave me unconditional love and a family that accepted me for who I am. Nothing will change that. Elaine, upon hearing the conversation, joined the embrace, crying with joy and relief. You are our son in every way that matters. The revelation of the family's secret only served to strengthen the bonds between him and his adoptive parents. It was as if destiny had woven an intricate tapestry, intertwining their lives in ways they had never imagined. When Carla heard the news, she hugged him with love and understanding. Honey, this changes nothing. On the contrary, it only confirms what I've always known. That you are an extraordinary man with a family that loves you unconditionally. His heart overflowing with gratitude and love, he realized that his life had taken an unexpected and wonderful turn. Not only had he found success and recognition in his musical career, but he had also discovered that his family was even bigger and more loving than he had ever imagined. The day of his and Carla's wedding arrived, and the atmosphere was filled with excitement and joy. The ceremony was held in a beautiful garden with the sun shining high and a gentle breeze caressing the faces of the guests. Elaine and Antonio, radiant with pride and happiness, sat in the front row next to Diego, who had traveled from Canada to be present for this special moment. When Carla appeared resplendent in her white dress, he felt his heart stop for a moment. The beauty and love radiating from his future wife took his breath away. With confident steps and a smile that lit up everything around her, Carla walked towards the altar, ready to unite her life with his. The ceremony was emotional and full of meaning. Every word, every promise exchanged was laden with deep and true love. They looked into each other's eyes, and at that moment they knew they were destined to be together, to face life as an unbreakable team. You are my rock, my inspiration, and my true love, declared Carla, her voice choked with emotion. I promise to love and support you every step of the way through good times and bad. You are the man I always dreamed of sharing my life with. With tears of happiness in his eyes, he took Carla's hands and responded, Carla, the light that illuminates my life, the missing piece in my puzzle. I promise to love you, respect you, and be your faithful partner in this journey we call life. When the officiant declared them husband and wife, the garden erupted in applause, and cheers they kissed passionately, sealing their union and commitment to eternal love but life. Had another challenge in store for the young couple after the wedding. When they began talking about starting a family, Carla revealed a secret she had kept closely. Like Elaine, she was infertile. The news was a blow to both of them, but their love and determination were stronger than any obstacle. Honey, I know this isn't what we had planned, said Carla, her voice filled with emotion. But our love is greater than any challenge. We can start a family in many ways. Moved by his wife's strength and love, he embraced her tenderly. It was then that he had an idea that would change their lives forever. Carla, what if we follow in my parents' footsteps? What if we adopt a child from Burundi? My native country, we could give a loving home to a child who desperately needs it. Carla, her eyes shining with emotion, nodded yes. It would be a beautiful tribute to your story. And your parents, let's give a child the opportunity to have a family and a better future. And so he and Carla began the adoption process. They traveled to Burundi, where they met Alice, a 6-year-old girl with a charming smile and a brave spirit. From the first moment, they knew she was destined to be their daughter. Alice's arrival in their lives was a ray of light and joy. The couple dedicated themselves wholeheartedly to providing her with all the love and attention she needed. As he watched Alice play and laugh, he couldn't help but think of his own story. He had gone from being an orphaned and destitute child to becoming a fulfilled man with a loving family and a purpose in life. His and Carla's lives were filled with love and happiness. Alice, the little girl, had brought immense joy to the family, filling their days with unforgettable moments. The couple devoted themselves to giving her all the love and attention she needed, ensuring she grew up in a home filled with affection and understanding. Alice's 7th birthday arrived, and the family decided to celebrate in grand style. Elaine and Antonio traveled from afar to be present on this special day, and Diego, who had become a loving and attentive uncle, also joined the celebration. The garden was decorated with colorful balloons and a big banner that read, "Happy Birthday, Alice." The birthday girl, radiant with happiness, ran and played with her friends while the adults chatted and laughed, enjoying the joy of the moment. But amid the celebration, Carla began to feel unwell. A sudden dizziness forced her to sit down, and her husband, worried, rushed to her side. "Honey, are you okay?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. Carla, with a weak smile, tried to reassure him. "I'm fine, love, just a little dizzy. It must be the excitement of the party." But the dizziness and nausea continued in the following days, and Carla decided to see her doctor to make sure everything was okay. When she received the results, she couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Congratulations, Mrs. Clark," said the doctor with a smile. "You're pregnant." Carla, her eyes filled with tears and a mixture of disbelief and joy, could hardly contain her excitement. After years of believing she was infertile, life had given her a miraculous gift. When she told her husband the news, they both hugged and cried with happiness. It was a dream come true, a miracle they had never expected, but that filled their hearts with indescribable joy. "We're going to have a baby, my love," he whispered, gently caressing Carla's belly. "A little brother or sister for Alice. Our family is growing in a way we never imagined." The following months were filled with excitement and preparations. Alice, excited about becoming a big sister, helped decorate the baby's room and constantly talked about all the things she would teach her future sibling Elaine. And Antonio, delighted by the news, devoted themselves to supporting the young couple in everything they needed. It was a time of unity and celebration for the whole family. Finally, 9 months later, the big day arrived. Carla gave birth to a beautiful boy, whom they named Isaac. With tears in his eyes, he held his son for the first time, marveling at the miracle of life. "Welcome to the world, little Isaac," he whispered, gently kissing the baby's forehead. "You are a gift from heaven, a testament to the love and strength of our family." Alice, excited to meet her brother, timidly approached the hospital bed. He lifted her in his arms and brought her close to the baby. "Look, Alice," he said tenderly, "this is your brother Isaac. Now you're a big sister, and I know you'll be the best in the world." Alice, with a smile full of pride and love, gently stroked the baby's cheek. "Hello, Isaac, I'm your sister Alice. I promise I'll always take care of you and love you very much." Looking at Carla, Alice, and Isaac, he knew he had found his true purpose in life. He was not only a successful musician, but also a loving husband, father, and son. His life had been a whirlwind of emotion and experiences since he reached stardom. Constant travel, massive concerts, and endless hours in the recording studio consumed much of his time and energy. Although he loved his music and the connection he had with his fans, he began to feel that something was missing in his life. Looking around, he realized that his children, Alice and Isaac, were growing up quickly, and he was missing precious moments of their lives. Carla, his beloved wife, had been a pillar of strength and support throughout these years, but he knew that she also longed for more time together as a family. One day, after a particularly exhausting concert, he made a decision that would change the course of his life. He called his manager and informed him that he wanted to retire from the stage to devote himself entirely to his family and composing music. Are you sure about this? His manager asked, surprised by the news. You're at the peak of your career. Your fans adore you and the concerts are sold out. With a serene smile, he replied, I know and I'm grateful for everything I've achieved, but my family is the most important thing to me. I want to be present in my children's lives to see them grow up and be the father they need. And I want to spend more time with Carla, enjoying our love and building our future together. When he shared his decision with Carla, she hugged him tightly, tears of happiness rolling down her cheeks. I'm so proud of you, my love, she whispered. I know it hasn't been easy, but you're prioritizing what truly matters. Her family is the most valuable thing. We have the news of his retirement from the stage shocked the music industry, and his fans many speculated about the reasons behind his decision, but he remained firm in his conviction that he was doing the right thing for him and his family as he adapted to his new pace of life. He discovered a renewed passion for music composition. He spent hours in his home studio creating melodies and lyrics that reflected his personal growth, and the experiences he had lived composing became his most intimate and cathartic form of expression. But life had another challenge in store for the family. Elaine, his loving adoptive mother, was diagnosed with cancer. The news of Elaine's cancer diagnosis fell like a dark shadow over the family. He, who had faced many challenges in his life, found himself once again facing a test that tested his strength and resilience. But this time it was not his own struggle, but that of his beloved adoptive mother. Elaine, always so strong and optimistic, received the news with admirable composure. Despite the fear and uncertainty that gripped her, she remained determined to fight the disease with all her might. I'm not going to let this defeat me, she told her son, a brave smile on her lips. I've faced many challenges in my life, and this is just one more. With the love and support of my family, I know I can get through this. Moved by his mother's strength, he promised himself that he would be by her side every step of the way. He knew that Elaine would need all the love and support possible during this difficult process. So began Elaine's battle against cancer. Hospital visits, chemotherapy sessions, and endless medical tests became an integral part of their daily routine. He, along with the rest of the family, took turns accompanying her to every appointment and providing all the care and attention she needed in those moments of vulnerability. He and Elaine had deep and sincere conversations. They talked about life, love, and the strength it takes to face the darkest moments. Elaine said one day, resting in her bed after a particularly difficult chemotherapy session, when we adopted you, we knew we were taking a leap of faith, but we never doubted that we were doing the right thing. You've given us so much love and joy over the years. You've been a light in our lives. He, tears in his eyes, took Elaine's hand and squeezed it gently. And you've been a light in mine, Mom. You gave me a home, a family, and unconditional love when I needed it most. Now let me be your strength in this difficult time. As Elaine's battle continued, the family grew even closer. Antonio, Carla, Alice, and Isaac became a solid team, providing emotional and practical support every step of the way. Together they celebrated every small victory and consoled each other. Moments of sadness, he found solace in his music. In moments of solitude, he would sit at the piano and let his emotions flow through the keys. He composed songs that spoke of strength, hope, and the unbreakable love of a united family. One afternoon, while Elaine rested in the garden, he sat beside her and sang one of his new songs. The soft melody and emotionally charged words filled the air, and Elaine couldn't hold back the tears. It's beautiful, Elaine whispered, her voice breaking. Thank you for this special gift. Your music has always been a balm for the soul. He hugged his mother, tenderly feeling the love and gratitude that flooded his heart. You taught me the importance of family and love, Mom. Your strength and bravery have been my inspiration. Elaine's battle with cancer was a pivotal moment in the young man's life as he watched his mother face the illness. With courage and determination, he realized that his own story could be a source of inspiration and hope for others. One day, while reflecting on his past and the impact it had on his life, he made a momentous decision. He wanted to use his voice and influence to make a difference in the lives of children who, like him, had faced overwhelming adversity and challenges. That's when he reached out to War Child, an organization dedicated to helping children affected by armed conflicts and crisis situations. Around the world, he knew that his own experience as an orphaned child in Burundi could be a powerful testimony to raise awareness and generate positive change. I want to be part of this cause, he told the director of War Child during their first meeting. I know what it's like to feel alone, scared, and hopeless. But I also know that with love, support, and opportunities, these children can overcome any obstacle and reach their full potential. The director, moved by his passion and sincerity, welcomed him as an ambassador for the organization. Together, they began working on projects and initiatives aimed at providing education, healthcare, and emotional support to the most vulnerable children. He traveled to different parts of the world, visiting refugee camps and conflict-affected areas. In each place he met with the children and listened to their stories, offering them words of encouragement and hope. I know it may seem like the world is a dark and scary place, he would say, looking tenderly into their eyes, but I want you to know that you are not alone. There are people who care about you and are fighting for you to have a better future. Never lose hope, because hope is the light that guides us through the darkest times. During each visit, he also shared his love for music. He taught the children how to express their emotions through songs and melodies, showing them that music could be a powerful way to heal and find inner strength. His story became an inspiring testimony for many through interviews and speeches. He shared his own experience of overcoming adversity and resilience, encouraging others to never give up and to fight for their dreams. If there's one thing I've learned in life, he said with conviction, it's that love and perseverance can overcome any obstacle. No matter where you come from or what you face, there's always hope. There's always an opportunity to create a better future. As he continued his work as a war child ambassador, his family remained united and strong. Elaine, who had fought her own battle with cancer, became a symbol of strength and resilience for everyone around her. Elaine's treatment lasted 2 years, and after numerous medical appointments, she received the news that she was cured. One day during a family gathering, Elaine took her son's hand and said with a smile, I am so proud of you, my son. You have turned your pain into purpose and are making a difference in the lives of so many children. He, with tears in his eyes, hugged his mother tightly. Everything I owe to you, he whispered. You gave me a home, a family, and unconditional love. You taught me to never give up and to fight for what I believe in. Thank you for being my light and my guide. As he looked around at his gathered family, he felt deep gratitude for the journey he had traveled, from the darkest moments in the orphanage to the success and purpose he had found. Each step had been a learning experience and an opportunity to grow. And as the sun set on the horizon, he looked to the future with a smile on his lips and conviction in his heart. He knew that no matter what happened, he would always have the strength of love and resilience to guide him on his path. And with that certainty, he set out to continue writing his story one chapter at a time. What was your favorite moment in this touching story of resilience? Let us know in the comments below.